Okay. Hi, everybody. All right, so I've got everybody here on YouTube and on TikTok. So it's not you, Natty. I was just trying to figure out how to get it going from both things, and I couldn't figure it out, so I just got it going. So thank you, everybody, for joining. I will tell everybody what's happening real quick. Bryan Kohberger is the murderer, the convicted murderer of 4 Idaho students, Kaylee Gonzalez, Maddie Mogan, Ethan Chapin, and Zaina Kernodle. He murdered these 4 students in Moscow, Idaho on November 13th, 2022. Honestly, it was just like the most bizarre case ever. For those of you that don't know, we all woke up one day and we heard of these 4 tragic murders in this small town of Moscow, Idaho, this college town. And then we find out that there were two remaining roommates that were unharmed, that are survivors. And that alone was just like, oh my gosh, 2 survivors. And that kind of garnered a lot of attention, and everybody just jumped on, social media here and there. But what gave this, case a lot of more attention was that the police in Moscow, Idaho, they just weren't releasing a lot of attention within, that day. It was a Sunday, and they were like, oh, okay, all the students, don't leave your, campus, don't leave your dorms, don't leave the, wherever you're staying. But then by 5 o'clock that same day, they find out about these murders noon on that Sunday, but by 5 p.m., they release the campus, they release the, the whole town, and they say, everybody's safe, everybody's okay, go about your business. And this is kind of where this case kind of got so, a lot of people were curious as to, okay, so we got 4 murdered students, 2 survivors, everybody's in this house, nobody knows what happened. This happened in the early hours. We're finding out it happened maybe at 4 o'clock in the morning of November 13th. And now they're releasing this whole town, this whole campus, college town, saying everybody's free to go, everybody's safe, and, just be as you are. Hold on, let me invite some people here. So this is where this case got very kind of, really in the headlines, right? Like, what's going on? Why isn't the police talking? Why isn't law enforcement telling us exactly, why they've released the town, this and that? What's going on? Nobody knew. Okay, so now we have all this attention. And this is November 13th. That day, like I said, they released the campus, the area. So that was that. And now everybody waits, because they're like, well, if the police released the campus or the area, then they must know what's going on. They must know that whoever did this is nearby, and they're on the heels of this person. So there must be an arrest within a day or so. Well, that day or so kind of went by. 24 hours went by, 48 hours went by, 72 hours went by. And they want these students to kind of resume normal activity, but at the same time, what? Like, you got 4 students that were brutally murdered, and now we're finding out it was with a knife. So we have four kids that were murdered, and now we're finding out it was with a knife. So this adds more of this criminal, mind to it, that somebody was angry, somebody was, had a motive here, because they went into this home with that anger and with that attempt to take care of something with that knife. They weren't just walking. They didn't do this with a butter knife. They didn't do this with a Swiss Army knife. Whatever knife did this had to be some, a very strong knife, right? And then as we go down the line, we find out several days later, maybe a week later, a sheath was left behind. So, well, a sheath is what holds a knife inside. So We want more information on this sheath. Was it a small sheath, a big sheath? Because a lot of times we say size doesn't matter, but right now size matters. We want to know the size of this sheath, and because that's going to tell us the size of the knife, right? So we're waiting and we want to know. So that's where we are with when this happened. We find out there's a sheath. So this tells us this wasn't a shooting. There's not going to be casings. There's not going to be, nobody was, as far as we know at this point, nobody was tied up or, tortured as far as we know so far. We just know that this was committed with a knife. That was the weapon. And so now, as we're moving along, a week goes by. I'm still talking about November 13th, the week of the murders. A week goes by, 2 weeks goes by. Social media is just, has a field day with this. They're like, what is going on? Police isn't talking. The county's not talking. Neighbors now are starting to clam up, and maybe that's because they're instructed to by law enforcement. We don't know. So that's kind of what's happening. And then, there's groups on social media. Maybe I was one of them that ran it. And we're getting information here and there. And all of a sudden we're seeing, I've got some stuff on my lips I got to take care of. And we're seeing different authority figures show up. And what I mean by that is, up until this point, we're used to seeing, law enforcement like in uniform from Washington State, from Idaho State, stuff like that. We're not used to seeing, and of course we'll see, what we're familiar with, what FBI looks like, this and that. But all of a sudden we have some gentlemen coming in with some cowboy hats on, some flannels, this and that. And we're wondering, what is this? This has to be something different. And we're trying to think, and we're starting to think there's some activity in the case. And there was. And they're zeroing in. I'm going to fast forward a little bit. And they finally found their perp. And it was just some lonesome guy, some loser, kind of like a 27-year-old he's from Pennsylvania, and he was a criminology student that was studying in Washington. And so that's where that went. Finally, there's an arrest on December 30th of 2023. And now we have, things are tying in. Fast forward to June of 2025. We have a case, we have somebody that is the suspect. And on June 30th, 2025, this person announces he wants to plead guilty to all 4 of these murders. And he was charged with a felony burglary as well, which just ties in with this whole case. So now he wants to plead guilty to all of these 5 counts. We get this huge announcement, and everybody's like running to get to Boise because now it's in Ada County. And so this was, I believe, a Monday that we find out. By Wednesday, I'd have to look at the dates. By Wednesday, almost everybody that is a part of this case is in Boise at Ada County Courthouse and wants to watch this monster plead guilty to these crimes. And they want to hear him say what he has to say. And what we're hoping for is, an allocution. We're hoping that the prosecution makes him explain himself, something, right? And I went there too. I flew out and I went to the plea deal, to the hearing, and we're waiting. And, and he goes up in front of the judge, and Judge Hippler's like, did you do this, and that? And he puts his hand up and he's like, yes. And he says it, yes, like in this loud voice. And it's like, okay, all right, bro, good job. You said yes. And I think even Hippler said at that point, you don't even have to stand up. You can sit down. And so like, oh, okay, let's give him more grace. And so he sat down, this little skinny self, and he was thin. Like, I remember when he put his hand up, like, and said, yes, like, my wrist is like that. Like, you can his wrist was thinner than mine. Like, hand to God, his wrist was thinner than mine. And he's like, yes, yes, whatever. And judge let him sit down and all that. And so, yeah, he pled guilty to killing all 4 of these students. And then about a month later, I believe it was July 23rd, was the sentencing. And I flew out for that as well. And, same thing. There's a lot of emotion. The families have to go through this. It's, it's up and down. It's so difficult watching him admit to this, but then he doesn't have to explain for any of it. He doesn't even have to say why or what, just give us, if you don't have to give us 100%, maybe give us 20%, give us something. Like, can you dip the tip in something? But he didn't have to give anything. So then we have the sentencing. And, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just independently trying to do this, trying to help families and victims and bring, information and honestly just share what I experience. And when information comes to me, I try to share it. I'm not a professional by no means, right? I know a lot of you are nodding, going, oh yeah, we know, look, you can't even get any views. Like, yeah, trust me, I know. So anyway, and obviously I forgot where I was going with this, but what I was going to say is us as the citizens and, the people here that have been following this case and been, have a passion to see this through and to bring, solace or just some sort of comfort to these families that went through this and continue to go through this. We knew that there were some loopholes in the verbiage when Judge Hippler was reading everything off. We knew that there were some loopholes when even Bill Thompson was speaking. Everything it did not land well. There was something while we were listening to all of it, we were like, what does that mean? Does this mean that he can actually, there's still a way he can back out of this, or he can still, get another trial? What do these words mean? We all sensed something. And then in addition to that, we kind of knew that September of 2026 was like an official deadline of some sort. And right now I can't pull it out and know exactly what it was, but I knew, or we all knew that we were all waiting for September to come. And we were like, we need September to come and go of 26. Like once that, passes, then I think we're going to be a little bit more, in the green here of him trying to get away with something. And September wasn't even close. We're still in July, and look what he did, right? He pulled a fast one. So let's talk about what he did. So Bryan, this morning, we get on X, there's a new post that comes out and it says, new, Bryan Kohberger is seeking to reopen the Idaho murders case, saying his guilty plea last year was based on false promises and blatant disinformation. And this Mike Baker is saying, he phoned me from prison saying he was innocent, but declining to discuss the evidence against him. Mike Baker from the New York Times. Hi, Mike. Okay. So then we have, what are his complaints? So what exactly is Bryan complaining about? Well, I'm going to read it to you, and I'm going to tell you what he's complaining about. I mean, this guy, right? Okay, ready? So I'm going to read this right now. Which this is one of 8 pages from this printout. But I will start with this one. It says, State of Idaho, County of Ada. Bryan Kohberger, being first duly sworn on oath, deposes and says, it is hereby declared that during attorney-client discussions, most of with included all members of Bryan C. Kohberger's immediate family, petitioner was convinced to falsely confess to capital murder, okay, and felony burglary by coercion, disinformation, false promises. That's where we got this. The false, where he was saying that false promises and blatant disinformation. False promises and the withholding of expulsory, now you know I can't say that word, discovery, and then like the colon. The following is material to the inception of the plea. Counsel's failure to inform petitioner of expulsory discovery received during plea discussions, namely clumps of unknown hair found in Ethan Chapin's hands, as well as failure of further inquiry. Okay, let's pause right there and speak about the hair, okay? So I am aware of a hair strand, maybe a couple, that were found in Ethan Chapin's hand upon his, when they removed his body and, the medical examiner. And I apologize that this picture is, it's gruesome. So if there's any children in the room or anything, get them out. They shouldn't be listening to this anyway. But really, is this what he's thinking about? So this is the floor. And then that's hair. Let me show you. That's the hair in one of the pictures that was released, right? So again, I think he's misinformed right here. And that's okay. I mean, this is why he did it, right? But again, I'm not a lawyer. This is all, I'm just reading what's in front of me. Let me keep going. Number 2, petitioner was convinced, this says convinced, and I'm not sure that, maybe that's what he means, but it says petitioner was convinced that actual guilt was not an important factor in considering plea acceptance. Death row was imminent and advised to lie. Like, what? What? Like, is he literally saying that? Is he literally saying that he was forced to lie by his counsel? And by his counsel, we mean Ann Taylor? Is that what I'm seeing here? Does anybody else see this the same ways that I see it? Because I don't know, man. I don't know. All right. So he was advised to lie. Petitioner was to gain a legal victory in entering a false plea. What? Okay. 3, a gross misrepresentation of and promises regarding what a life sentence would immediately afford petitioner and a gross misrepresentation of death row in Idaho, including an elaborate fabricated story of counsel's horrific experience touring an actual 8x8 death row cell, all communicated to petitioner and his family allegedly by IDOC through counsel, thus constituting their threats and promises made to induce a plea agreement. I mean, come on. Is this real life? Matt said, I do believe that's what he's saying, Alina. Well, Matt, I do believe he's saying that too. Now, let me say this though. How many complaints did he file in the first month of him being in prison or in jail? And in any of those complaints, did he say, I'm innocent? Like, I've got a bendy banana. I'm innocent. I have people harassing me through the vents. I'm innocent. I've got people wanting to fight me in the bathroom, and I'm here on a false plea. Help me, I'm innocent. Did any of that happen ever? Matt, I do believe that never happened, right? So, but when did that start happening? And I'll tell you when, because he actually says it. Let me find it here in my little paperwork. He says it right here. And there's a key word that stuck out when I saw this. And I will highlight it.
Yes, we are, Izzy.
And what is that? I gotta probably flip this so you guys can see it better, right? Oh wait, is it already mirror imaged? So can you guys see what the highlighted word is?
No, you need to mirror it.
Can you guys see? So I gotta mirror it again. Hold on. Is it better now?
Yep.
And what is that? Broken plea. The book. So it's almost like he didn't say anything this whole time because this BS hasn't come out yet. And now all of a sudden, look who's mentioning it. Broken plea. Broken plea. And now he's looking for these loopholes and these cracks, like the hair or the clump of hair in Ethan's hand. Because guess where that's mentioned? In here. Like I said earlier, why didn't he complain during his bendy banana phase and all those complaints in the first weeks that while I've got this bendy banana, jail, Ethan also had a clump of hair in his hand. He didn't say any of that because none of this came out. So now he thinks he's got somebody's to ride. And he thinks he's going to come in all tough and all that. Christy T. Miller says he knows what Turvey was going to say. I mean, did he know? But to me, it doesn't seem like he knew because it took him to have to read this book to now all of a sudden feel like, oh, I feel I'm going to puff my chest out a little bit more. Now I feel a little, empowered and somebody's got my back. This idiot over here, and I'm gonna file a petition for ineffective counsel. Ineffective counsel? Really? So this would mean he is going to represent himself, do this pro se? Like, how's this gonna go down? And yeah, Natalie Combs said he had it all in discovery. He had it all. He's had all of this. But now it's important. Now, 2 days before this Netflix documentary is about to drop, now it's important. I don't know. I don't know. His other letters, I just have to look at a reminder. Other letters he would write to the jail and to the, I don't know who they complain to over there. I'm sure there's like a list that goes, I'm sure it doesn't go right to the warden, but his JPay wasn't working. He wanted to move units because his JPay app wasn't working. I think he was there for 5 days at this point. When he complained about his JPay not working, did he say, and by the way, while my JPay's not working because I need to get money so I can pay for stuff because these people want to give, all these Kohbergers want to donate money to me. I'm innocent. I was forced. I was coerced. Let me remind you all, I was coerced. He never said any of that. I'm being harassed in jail. I don't belong here because I'm innocent. Does anybody remember that? Nothing. So, yeah. We just have to understand that this is a ruse for him to get more attention. He's desperate. He's, maybe it is because of this Netflix documentary that's dropping in 2 days. And he's like, what about me? I want this to be about me. And if they're going to talk about everybody else, not me, then I'm going to do something about it and make everybody think about me. Well, that was stupid because honestly, all this is going to do is make more people watch the Netflix documentary, you idiot. So good luck on that. In addition to that, he wants to say that this journalist wants to say that Kohberger phoned him. So let's speak on that a little bit. This would mean that this Mike Baker is also on Kohberger's list of people that he's allowed to call and speak to. So that's kind of interesting. Like, who else is on this list? How many people is Kohb's calling and saying, oh, I'm innocent? Because, again, we're just hearing about this for the first time. So let's say that this motion or this petition kind of gets granted, right? That the judge is going to read it and, see all this and be like, okay, let's see what you got. A lot of people are thinking, oh no, this is terrible. This is, worst of the worst. Yes and no. One thing that I tried to look into as much as I could, there's only so much information that we can find out at this point. One thing that I was able to learn today is if this does get granted, like if the, moving forward gets granted, what will happen at this point is all of the lawyers involved with this case, especially the defense, they will all get interviewed extensively and then re-interviewed. And then those interviews will get circled back once other people get interviewed. And it's just going to keep, kind of snowballing on these interviews to find out where did this ineffectiveness actually occur, right? And then once there is, something, solid that the judge can be like, you know what? I think he's got a point there. It won't be until that moment that, that maybe the judge will say, okay, let's give this another look. Let's put some new eyes on it and see what happens. will that happen? I don't know. I don't know. Let's say it does, then let's do it. Like, then let's give this guy another trial. What we have on our side is that we have the firing squad now. So not only will he most likely end up on the penalty again, on death row again, or he will be tried with the death penalty and end up on death row. But now there's the likelihood that he will be faced with the firing squad. So sure, I mean, if that's the dice he's willing to roll, then so be it. Something gave him, something made him feel confident with this. And I hate to say it, but I still think there was something in this book that gave it to him. I'll be honest, I've gotten a little bit more than halfway through. I'm not finished with it. But for me, have I found anything in this book that kind of makes it seem like, oh yeah, this murderer definitely serves to get a new trial, or at least his case to be looked at again? Absolutely not. I don't see it one bit. But I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know. Let's see some of these. Diane says it's the hair. But I know what they're talking about with the hair. And from my understanding, it's not a clump of hair. It's like a strand of hair, or maybe two strands of hair. And it could be, and it's dark, it's not light. And it could be straightened out to be a longer piece of hair, which then in turn turns out to be like, from what I was shown, was like this long. So in my opinion, I think it's Ethan's own hair. I think it's his own hair. And that's why it was never pushed to be further tested, like for DNA and all that. I think we also have to remember, like, when we have these scientists and, professionals and medical examiners and all of them, they're looking at this evidence, and, they have a trained eye. Like, it's not their first time looking at blood samples or hair samples or anything, just pieces of, debris, or, I don't want to say like all the gruesome words, but body parts or inside of bodies and stuff like that. When they're looking at this, and they're looking at from body to body, they have a very trained eye. And sometimes they don't, yes, we need it for like cases and stuff like that, but sometimes they don't need a DNA, like a scientific DNA number to be like, oh yeah, that belongs to so-and-so. Like, they can tell, like, this, if a hair strand resembles every other person, or doesn't resemble every other person, but resembles that one body. I mean, come on, like, we got to give it to them sometimes. Like, we don't need everything just because, it's not written down. We have to go by what we have been listening to and going by for hundreds of years. And that's by the trained eye. I hope I'm making sense by that. Like, we have to believe that these people are put in the position that they're put into because the towns, the counties trust them, and we should trust them too. They haven't given us any other reason not to. So I don't know. Let's see, what other questions? Christy said, Matt, could they seek the death penalty if he got a new trial? I know you asked Matt that question, but from my understanding, yes, they absolutely could. So while we're waiting for some other questions to come in other news, I also cover the Nancy Guthrie case. And as we know, there really isn't any new updates. There's been nothing. But what did happen today is Savannah Guthrie gave us a new video and message. It was short. There wasn't much to it. She just, let's see, I think I took some notes. I was going to play it, but she just basically said that they're in agony, that, they're still seeking help from the public, but it seems like the help that they're looking for is help to bring Nancy's remains home. Like they still want answers as to the what, the why, the who. No, not the why. I'm going to take that back because I think they know the why. But the who and the where. And I think they just want to bring her body back home and to be able to give her the proper burial that, you know, the whole family deserves closure, especially for me, I think the children do. So it was just another video, a message pleading for help from the public. So that was that. Let's see, any other, thank you for joining the lives. Thank you for sharing the lives. I appreciate it. Yes, Chrissy said Savannah looked very defeated. I agree. Heather says the death penalty would be back on the table if he is granted a new trial. Yes, that's how I understood it too. And that's why I said, let's just, if he does want all this, which obviously he does, and this would also mean that the firing squad would be a possibility as well. So let's just hope. The Gonzalez family did release a statement, so I'll read that for everybody as well. So it reads this: the mosquito you just can't seem to swat. That is what Kohberger and his following have become to this family. We read Mr. Baker's story. He must be so proud of himself for speaking with Mr. Kohberger and his sister, giving them a platform to spread their narrative. The piece had little else to offer beyond a guilty man once again claiming his innocence. Nowhere in the story or in Kohberger's own statement does he acknowledge that he knowingly, voluntarily, and intelligently admitted to murdering the 4 victims of this tragedy: Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan. Quite the opposite. He appeared in court for a hearing before a judge, accompanied by his 4 lawyers. He chose not to leave his fate or the facts of this case to a jury. He never cried foul, never claimed he was uninformed or pressured, and never suggested there were problems with the discovery materials he and his counsel had reviewed for 2 years that should have been challenged. He admitted his guilt. When asked whether he was actually guilty, he answered yes. I was there. Yes. We would have preferred a death penalty trial. We believe fully in the evidence. Instead, BK received exactly what he asked for, a deal that spared his life. Now, know this, he hates that life. He wants another chance to roll the dice. There will almost certainly be a hearing. That is how the legal process works. The defendant will get another day in court, a welcome break from solitary confinement, a ride, perhaps different food, photos taken, and a spotlight once again fixed on him and his supposed innocence. The real tragedy is this: if even a fraction of the energy spent trying to free a guilty man were directed towards honoring the victims, there would be statues of them on every corner, parks bearing their names, and days set aside to remember their lives that they lost at the hands of this narcissist. Yeah. So, and I agree with them. It's sad. It's unfortunate. That is the only family that I have seen a statement from thus far. And then we have Brian Enton released saying, Idaho Attorney General Raul Labrador's statement: my heart goes out to the families of Madison, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan, who have already endured unimaginable loss and now must face today's deeply painful news. My office stands ready to do whatever is necessary to ensure justice is fully carried out. Christy says, New York Times Baker. Yes, that is Mike Baker from the New York Times. So yeah, does anybody have any other questions or insight about this? Pretty crazy. It's not the New York Post. No, it's the New York Times. Totally different. I'll read through what his other pages said on this. It's 8 pages. So basically, Kohberger just lists where he's in jail, says place of detention and custody, Idaho Maximum Security Institution, name and location of the court-imposed judgment, Ada County. Then he lists the case number, offense convicted. So it says offense convicted, and he has to write down exactly what he's convicted for, and he writes it himself. 4 counts of capital murder, felony burglary. His date of sentencing and terms, life without parole plus 10 years. So he had to write everything himself. And then he says, check whether a finding of guilty was made after a plea. And he says, yes. And then he says, did you appeal from the judgment? No. And then he says, state concisely all of the grounds on which you base your application for post-conviction relief. He says, ineffective assistance of counsel during criminal proceedings. B, plea not knowingly or voluntarily entered because it was induced by unkept promises. C, plea not voluntarily entered because of threats asserted by petitioner's legal counsel. Threats? So now he's saying that he was threatened by Ann Taylor and her team? Whoa. Yikes. On many bikes. Yeah. And then he says, if your application is based upon the failure of counsel to adequately represent you, state concisely and in detail what counsel failed to do in representing your interests. And he says, A, failure to disclose of or review exculpatory evidence, i.e. unknown hair in Chapin's hand during plea discussions. B, counsel's insistence that petitioner's plea need not be truthful despite petitioner's vehement denial of actual guilt. C, promises made by counsel regarding LWUP statuses, i.e. immediate something connect, visits, freedom of movement, employment, and elaborate lies of death row life. What in the heck is he even going on about? Like, what? He said, and then it says, are you seeking leave to proceed in forma pauperis, that is requesting the proceeding be at county expense? And he says, yep. And then it says, are you requesting the appointment of counsel to represent you in this case? Yup. And then it says, state specifically what relief you seek. He says, a withdrawal of a guilty plea. A withdrawal of a guilty plea. Wow. That's wild AF. Like, you know, why didn't he say withdraw of my guilty plea? Because he's the one that submitted that. So 3, like, wow. And again, he's never mentioned anything for 3 years and so August, 3 years and 8 months. Not a word, nothing. I'm innocent. Nobody's heard him say, I'm innocent, I didn't do this. Nothing. And he literally says it right here. On page 3 of 8, he says, disclose of review exculpatory evidence unknown during plea discussions. Counsel insists that petitioner's plea need not be truthful despite petitioner's vehement denial of actual guilt. Wow. Yeah, Christy says dude looked at Ann Taylor like she was family. I was there for the plea deal hearing on actually I just want to look at the exact date because I know that it happened on the 30th, right? So yes. So June 30th is when we all woke up and we found out, oh my gosh, there's a plea. And then it was, that was a Monday. And then it was July 2nd, where everybody flew into Idaho to Boise, to Ada County. And on July 2nd, everybody, I was one of them, and we went to watch him enter this plea, right? And so during this time, so Ann Taylor was there, everybody was there. And when everyone's leaving the court, all right, so I'm in the courtroom and they had to have people exit the courtroom in a certain fashion, right? And so they first said family, victims first, family next, and then they were doing, counsel. So, and then they were doing media, right? So we were the last to leave. And so I was in the last row. So I'm able to watch all of these people file out. So I'm watching, the council leave. I'm watching, the extended families leave. I watched Kohberger's family leave. I watched, all of this leave. And then I watched Ann Taylor leave. And when Ann Taylor was walking out, she's walking out of the courtroom with she's like, she's walking out laughing and all that. And I remember even making a comment like, why is she laughing? What is so funny right now in the face of all of these people as we stand here? Like, she's looking at us and she's laughing. Like, save your smiles for when nobody's around, or the back room, or when there's no camera. I don't know. Not right now, but here she was, wide-eyed, smiling, this and that. And I found that very off-putting. And then we went, and then on July 23rd, we had the sentencing, right? And I noticed there was, pictures of Ann being, shoot people, all the photography, MSM, all that, are trying to get pictures of everything. And Ann's walking out with one of the sisters, I don't remember which one right now, out of the back door. And she notices the cameras, and she's just got this, very stale face on her, mug and all that, like, oh, I'm going to be serious now. And it's like, well, you think? A little too late, because we already saw that and everybody caught you laughing the first time. So you try to be serious now. You already got what you anticipated, I guess, but I don't know. I mean, can we add that into the narrative of all of this? I don't think so. Like, it doesn't work for me, because in my mind, I'm thinking about all the times she put her hand on Bryan, my client. Oh, and he didn't do it. He didn't mean it. Like, FOH, come on now. And now we're supposed to believe that he was pleading to them, saying, oh, I'm innocent and you guys are forcing me to take this. And I don't know if he has that accent. I mean, honestly, I'm from New York and he's from Pennsylvania, so he probably just sounds a lot like me. So, but still, who knows? So now we're also supposed to believe that during all of their meetings and everything that he was arguing with them. Please remember, everybody, that he is a criminology student. He studied, he was going for his PhD and just about to get it too. And it's not like he was flunking His grades were pretty good. He was a teacher's assistant. They wanted him. They thought he was fit for the job. They thought, oh, well, if anybody can do this, it's him. Look at his resume. Like, look at the stuff he can do. So, like, hold on. We hate him so much. I'm not going to read that one yet, but so we're supposed to believe that they were arguing behind closed doors the whole time, and Cobes was saying, "Oh, I didn't do it," and Ann and all of them were saying, "Honey, we understand you didn't do it, but look, boy, do we got a deal for you. You're gonna love this." So what we're gonna need from you, honey, we're gonna need you to say yes 4 times, and then maybe an additional one about some burglary thing. And in exchange for that, you're going to get to spend the rest of your life in prison. Do you love that? How much do you love that? Come on, bring it in. Bring it in, Bri. Tell us how much you love that. But he was saying I didn't do it. Okay, guys. Make it make sense. Because I don't believe that at all. Like, at all. I don't believe any of it. Matt says, this is why district court judges ask defendants so many questions about whether the plea was explained to them and whether they were induced to take the plea. So these kinds of issues won't pop. Exactly. Thank you, Matt. And for those that remember that day, I remember it. The judge asked several times, over and over again, are you clear on these charges? Are you familiar with this? Do you accept these charges? And as they went down, each murder charge for each person, like each student, each, like Kaylee Gonzalez, Maddie Mogan, each person, he read off the charges like very thoroughly. And Bryan had to take the time and respond yes or no. So again, Mr. Criminology, Mr. PhD, Mr. I know everything. There was your opportunity again. What was the difference with jumping forward and saying, hey, hold up, I didn't do this a year ago, and saying it now? What's the, like, what is it? What's the missing link? What's the missing link? Like, what happened between now and then? Huh. He literally says it. He says it in his own thing. Right here. When he says, the PCA was released nearly 4 years ago and it's faulty. Oh, wait, hold on. It says the PCA was released nearly 4 years ago. And its faulty premises were never challenged at trial. At trial? Excuse me. Where is it? They were never challenged at trial? Bro, what trial? You're saying they were challenged at a trial that never existed. Okay. And then circumnavigated by a broken plea. The clarity conducive to closure and justice shall remain abjectively miscarried unless the plea is withdrawn. Dude, you never even had a trial. I don't know. Close says he literally talks about the clump of hair in Ethan's hand in his petition for post-conviction relief. Heather says my other half has arrived. My help has arrived. Like D Mold says there are signs. There's sometimes nothing you can do once they reach 18. Our system is broken. That is true. That's true. On TikTok, Irene says the whole room was off. Even the detectives took a big breath that day after he gave his plea. Yeah, we all did. But But then we also knew that there were going to be loopholes in that plea. Like we heard it that day. We were like, wait, some of this verbiage sounds, hold on. Some of this verbiage sounds like there could be, like he could ask for something down the line. And then once we looked into it and all that, we knew that September of 2026 was the absolute deadline. And that's kind of what we've all been waiting for and waiting. Like September was in the back of our heads, and here we are. We didn't have to wait that long, and he filed it now. Whether or not it's on purpose because of this documentary dropping in 2 days, we really don't know. People that are closer to this case, I'm not speaking about the families. That's not who I'm referring to, but more people that follow this and have just have more into this case. They say that they think that he just can't handle any attention, like not on him, or that there's going to be some documentary that's going to bring out the worst about him. So he had to do something quickly. And yes, he knew about the September deadline, but why not bring more attention to himself instead of this documentary that's about to drop in 2 days? And does that seem on par? Yeah, of course it does. That seems just like him. So let's see what it does for him. Right now, I mean, yeah, he brought it up, but does he think that he's going to have a decision in 2 days, like when this documentary drops and everyone's going to be like, oh, wow, July 29th, same day the Idaho documentary drops on Netflix, the judges grants Kohberger a new trial? No, it's not going to work like that. This is going to take like months and months. Like there's going to be a lot of interviews and stuff like that. So as smart as he wants to think he is, he just isn't. So I don't know. Christy says, what is the new documentary called? Natty will tell you. She has actually, I have it, but it's on my phone that's over here, so I can't look it up right now. I honestly don't know it. I just know it has the word Idaho in it, and it drops on Wednesday, the 29th on Netflix. Joanna says, yes, Demo, Judge H was very specific with the questions he asked. Yeah, he was very specific. But also within those questions is where we all learned about the loophole. So Close said Hitler's face when this lands on his desk. Oh, it's already landed on his desk because it's already been filed. I think it said that in one of these, it was filed. I can't find it, but I think I saw somewhere that he actually did try to file this on the 23rd to make it an actual year, but it wasn't stamped until today, the 27th. But I don't know for sure. Like, I can't quote that. What do you guys think about the whole thing where he's saying that his whole family was part of all of the meetings? Like in this statement, how he says that, let me find where it says, I don't know how he words it, but he words it how like, yeah.
It's called The Idaho Murders College Nightmare.
Oh, that's what the,
that's the Netflix documentary is called.
The Netflix documentary. Shut up. What is it? Idaho Murders what?
It's in the TikTok chat. Just read it, but pronounce it correctly.
I can't. The Idaho Murders College Nightmare.
Yeah,
okay.
Wednesday.
It's on Wednesday. I want to find the part where he says that his whole family was there too. I think that's up for debate because does that mean mother, father, and both sisters, or just mother and father, or just one family member at a time? Does this include aunts and uncles too? Some of you may know that I had second, third hand contact with one of his uncles, and he had a lot to say about this case as well. So now with this information, it kind of contradicts what Uncle was saying. And it doesn't bring up the specific points that his uncle was bringing up to make this seem more realistic, if that makes sense. I mean, if I'm allowed to say it, I will, but right now I have to make sure that I'm allowed to say it, so I can't say anything yet. But it just doesn't make sense, again, with the whole, he's had so many opportunities to scream innocence. All of these times he's complained, his JPay, his Bendy Bananas, the harassment through the vents, all of that. He literally wrote these complaints. Anywhere in there, it could have just been like, I'm innocent. Something. And nada, never. Every time he wrote it, or any of his complaints, he wrote it as in, this is where my life is for the rest of my life. So let's make it comfortable for me. So how can I make this life better for me? So please, can I get, stronger bananas? Close says, don't get me started on Uncle K. Close says also, he appears to say some sort of horrifying information about what life in a death row cell is like, communicated to his entire family. But, okay, so yes. So Close says he appears to say some sort of horrifying information about what life in a death row cell is like, was communicated to his entire family, and that constitutes a threat. And he's saying that his counsel, like that one of his lawyers, were the ones that told him this. Is that how I understood this? Did you guys understand it the same way? That he said, this is number 3, a gross misrepresentation of and promises regarding what a life sentence would immediately afford petitioner, and a gross misrepresentation of death row in Idaho, including an elaborate fabricated story of counsel's horrific experience touring an actual 8x8 death, I don't have it, but death row cell, all communicated to petitioner and his family. So he's saying that one of his council members had a meeting with him and said, look, I toured an 8x8 death row cell. This is what your future is going to be like. Is this what you want? Is this what you want? And not only did they do that to him, but they apparently, gave these same threats to his family as well. And he wrote it again, through counsel, thus constituting threats and promises made to induce a plea agreement. So threats and promises. Sounds like a Saturday night for me, but whatever. So do you know what that reminds me of when he says, experienced touring an 8x8 death row cell? Do you guys remember when, so it was a year ago when all this was happening, and our news daddy, Enton, he went and toured the exact jail that Kohberger was going to. And it's almost like he's reflecting on that. And maybe somebody from his council saw that video and was like, oh, I was watching TV and one of the reporters toured this, and bro, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. I don't think you should do it. And maybe that's all it was. And he thinks that was inciting threats and promise. Well, first of all, if that's a threat, where's the promise? What's the promise versus the threat? Like, come on, bro, pick one. But okay, so that's that. Now, and maybe Heather, yeah, Diane, let's rally. Maybe Heather or Chloe can help me on this, but if one of his councils did do this, then wouldn't now that be part of all of the interviews that they have to like now they have to conduct a bunch of interviews with all of his counsel team, and they'll have to narrow down who did this, right? They'll be like, which one of you, sat down with the Cobes and showed him or talked to him about an 8x8 cell and scared him with it, and not only him, but then you went to his family and did the same thing. And they'll have to go one by one through all of them until they find who actually did this. Am I right or wrong on that? The Copes. Because what if when they interview his entire counsel and all of them say that never happened? But what did happen is we know that there's a journalist on the outside world by the name of News Daddy, and he toured a cell prior to, or like right around the time of this. Could that be what he's referring to? But none of us talked to him or shared any of this information. So, we don't know where he's getting this from. Could that happen? Like, is that a possibility? Heather or Claude, do you guys know, or anybody else? Clay Ty said, what did Uncle K say? He said a lot. Yeah, we all know he watched News Nation. Chloe says, possibly depending on how far this goes. He's trying to withdraw his plea, which he can do if he doesn't enter into it knowingly and voluntarily. He is saying the threats and coercion are why he said too much. He didn't enter it into knowingly and voluntarily. So they may, all right, so this is what Chloe was saying. Possibly depending on how far this goes. He's trying to withdraw his plea, which he can do if he doesn't enter into it. I don't know if I'm reading this right. Doesn't enter into it knowingly and voluntarily. He is saying the threats and coercion are why he didn't enter into it knowingly and voluntarily, so they may investigate to get to the bottom of this. Matt Rowland says, it was a bad idea to have family present for those meetings. He waived his attorney-client privilege by doing that, arguably. That's why I never allow family members in my meetings with clients. Ooh, thank you for that information, Maddie. That's good to know. Interesting. So, wow. They're going to want to narrow down exactly which meeting this occurred, like which particular meeting this occurred during, right? Like they're going to be like, well, you're saying this happened on Tuesday. I'm just going to throw a date out there, like Tuesday, March 1st. Your family wasn't even part of that meeting, so try again. And if that happens and he doesn't get it right, like they'll just throw it out. Is that how that works? Heather says this could get messy. Oh, it will get messy for sure. Like I feel like just them having to interview everybody to get to the bottom of, who did what is going to just go into like this snowballing, like spinning circle of what the heck, like when did we, who said that? And they're going to, Ann Taylor's team's, they're all going to be looking at each other like, who did this? We have enough, we're still dealing with the Turvey stuff. Like what's going on? D Mold says, I imagine Ann Taylor's I imagine she's pissed. Like, I mean, she was trying to get him off of these murders. And now he's going, you didn't represent me properly. Pish posh. Like, what? 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 We're not even going to the movies. Like, what the heck? It's insanity. So, I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys think is going to be the next step in this? Like, when do you think we're going to see? Heather says maybe she didn't give him a good enough back rub. Christy Miller says, I don't think AT was ready for a trial. She was clear she needed more time. I don't know if her reasons were legit, but I feel like she set him up for this. Very interesting. So you think she's anticipating this and she's ready for this? Wow. Joanna says, can you imagine AT's response to him accusing her of wrongdoing? Like, well, yeah. And then him wanting to represent himself. I don't know. It's a shame. And here everybody just kind of was, moving along. And like I said, we're all waiting for that September to come along. And we just wanted September. We really did. I think once September was here, the families kind of would feel a rest a little bit. I mean, never at a calm, right? But just to know that he couldn't pull a fast one, and we didn't reach that, and he pulled the fast one. Suki says, I'm surprised he didn't try to represent himself in the beginning. Yeah, a lot of us thought that too, but he got himself a really good counsel with Ann Taylor, from what we thought. She was Idaho's, hammer. She's like their bushwhacker, right? Like she's gonna get everybody off if they're on death row. And I mean, I guess she did, right? Because he took a plea. Ooh, good point. Natalie Combs said, I wonder where AT stands legally to speak on so-called threats. Close says, wait, did you say he is trying to represent himself? Yes. So from what I've read is that he is going to represent himself so far in this. Yes. Joanna says, Christy, I think she's still receiving some sort of paycheck because of the back and forth regarding what documents should be released and or redacted. Yeah, possibly. Christy says they weren't ready. Look at all the people who weighed in since the plea. He thinks he's set to win now because of all these idiots. It's true. Suki says, I was hoping it would be all over now for so the families could start to heal. Trust me, Suki, we all were hoping the same thing. Natalie Combs said, if she's no longer representing him, can she speak up? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know the proper protocol. Like if he has to fill out some legal form to say, I no longer want you representing me. We're done. It's over. So I truly think that has to happen. But I did read something about he's going to represent himself, pro se something. I'm not quite sure what all that means. Christy says, I don't think she can ever speak on him unless he dies. I thought that was a lifetime agreement. I don't know. Natty says, I'd like to bring that date forward. Close says he filed a motion for counsel to be appointed. Oh, okay. So then I was wrong. I just heard that from somebody else I spoke to earlier today, and they said, so far it looks like he might be representing himself, but if he filed a motion for counsel to be appointed, then yeah. So Chloe, if he filed a motion for counsel to be appointed, does that mean public defender then? You see that? Because I'm still the Lord of the Flies. Treasure Hunter says to Matt, she can say anything now, correct, if his client attorney privileges were waived by bringing family. Oh, that's a question. Okay. Okay, Chloe says yes, public defender. Okay. Yep, more taxpayer money. Natty says, did you just use my trick? Did you see me go like this? Then no, I didn't. Heather says the only caveat is if he claimed ineffective counsel. Hi. Oh, I miss you. I'm so glad everybody joined. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. I appreciate it. Thank you, Heather and Chloe, for modding. I am going to wrap this up soon because, yeah. But thank you, everybody, for joining. I'll probably jump on some lives on TikTok in a little bit. But yeah, that's all we have really going on. I just wanted to update everybody on the Cobes and what this idiot is trying to pull now. But he won't, because we'll still get him. So yeah. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining. I'll see you guys around. Bye.